Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
So let's dive right in.
Okay.
Muktan. I want to, let everyone know about what Amaru is.
Sure.
So what is Amaru,
Uh-huh.
and what inspired you to create this?
Yeah, totally. So Amaru is sort of Duolingo for self-care, if you will. It's like a gamified self-care app. It's got exercises in it, mindfulness meditation, gratitude journaling, but it's also got this adorable little virtual pet. He's this little guy, his little winged cat. And when you meet him, he's sort of scared. He's a little anxious. But by engaging in your self-care practice, you see the change in Amaru. You see him grow, he becomes more free, more light, he bonds with you more, and it becomes a metaphor for your own growth journey. And by putting in these steps of reinforcement, what we're doing is scaffolding motivationally. We all know that meditation helps, or yoga helps, or working out helps, but sticking with a practice is hard. So we've created some motivational scaffolds to stop people from dropping off.
And what inspired you to do this?
Yeah, long story, long winding road, but the big picture, like personally for me, is mental health challenges have run in my family, very much so. My brother was a suicide. I struggled with depression and anxiety in my life, really just kind of all up and down the family tree. And when I was at the end of graduate school, I was very burnt out. I was seeking therapy. Therapy wasn't helping me. I was trying medication. Medication wasn't helping me. And I was feeling increasingly disempowered because I just felt like I was just going to some person, inventing my problems and taking a pill to solve those problems. Nothing was getting better. And it was when I discovered mindfulness meditation that I finally found a path that benefited me, that felt empowering. It felt like a practice, something I could take on myself where I could benefit from it. And I found it actually just through an app, through Headspace, through a monk named Andy Puddicombe. Headspace is now this massive content platform, but it started very simply. It was just one Buddhist monk and some tech guys who recorded some audio and put it out there. And the first time I felt a space between my thoughts was a transformative experience for me, because the negative chatter had been so loud for so long that I just thought it was just normal.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't. So that gave me the space to step out. And fast forwarding many years, and we're happy to jump back and forth in and out of the chronology there, but fast forwarding many years, I left my career in HR. I ended up here and did a yoga teacher training. That was fantastic. I knew that I wanted to work in this space. I knew I wanted to work in helping people with anxiety, helping people with depression. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't know how to improve upon the Headspaces and Calms of the world. I mean, they're great platforms, they're great products. But what struck me was the content's great, but sticking with the practice is hard. And that's where I came back to the games that I played in my youth. The games that, if anything, sometimes games can be too engaging. They can trip into addiction. And we've had to walk that line very finely. But we've now come up with a structure that we use gamification to scaffold and prevent that drop off long enough for people to get the benefits of something that takes regular practice.
Yeah, it's like a question of how much.
Yep.
So you want the stickiness.
You want the stickiness.
But and probably anyone who's played video games, and I guess lots of things can give you this experience, but you're playing, you're loving it, it feels healthy, good, energizing, and it's almost like holding on to that story of the decision that you made that, hey, I like this, then ends up causing a problem in the future because you're like, I'm gonna keep going past the point of really when I should, because I've already decided that I like this and I'm into it. So is it maybe in a way like holding on to the past, right? That
it could be.
Right, because it's an issue when I go too far, and then it's like, man, I've been playing this game for like 5 hours, and I haven't really moved my body. That's a problem.
It is a problem, and I wouldn't say so much as about like clinging to the past as it's just basic addiction. We are programming hits of dopamine on a reinforcement schedule to get you to stay. That's what's happening. It's the same thing that happens in a slot machine. It's the same thing that happens in social media. It's the same thing that happens in every game that you play. They talk about a game loop. We design a game loop, and there's supposed to be that hit of dopamine. Now, the challenge that we're having today, though, is it's a problem of incentives with the companies that make games, right? it used to be in the past, you go out, you buy a game, you kind of play it on your own schedule, and it didn't need to be this addictive thing to keep you on screen all the time. But when you factor in that a lot of games are monetized by advertisements, right? The longer you're on screen, the more ads you see, the more money they make. Or they're monetized on a subscription basis, right? So if we can always find a way to get you hooked, to keep you coming back and make more money. So we, and my company's name is 6 Wing Studios, and my name in the world, by the way, is Gabe Pappalardo. I'm Muktan here at the ashram. We've had to walk that line very finely, because a lot of the decisions that I made for Amaru were very naively pure, I would say, in attempting to strip out a lot of those types of mechanics in a way that's made it, up until recently, very difficult to make us function on the business side, like walking that line between the two. Yeah. And also, a couple of examples. One is literally the antithesis of us saying, let's have a gameplay loop that keeps people on screen. In Amaru, we literally encourage you to take a screen break. We literally say, Amaru's going to go exploring now. He'll be back in 90 minutes. Like, get off your phone, go have your own adventure. Yeah. When you come back, he'll have brought you some treasure, right? That's something that we came up with. But from an engagement standpoint, from a KPI of a tech standpoint,
that's the opposite.
The opposite of what you want. By the way, I want to tease a little bit that you've had 2 tech bros back to back. I have some questionable supplements that I want to promote, and I brought some raw deer that I'd like to eat. Teasing, but yeah.
Wait, so when you do this, is the person not even able to continue playing the game anymore?
Yeah, Amaru's chilling. Amaru's off.
So you literally can't play anymore?
There's nothing to do.
Wow.
I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could do the self-care stuff we're never going to block you from. If you want to boot up a meditation at that time or write in your gratitude journal, we're not going to do that. But you're not going to be able to play the little whack-a-mole game or the little, mini games that Amaru needs.
So I also want to go back to the kind of the dopamine.
Yeah.
Right. I hear what you're saying, but I also wanted to ask you about the initial, like the first time you kind of received the dopamine from a new experience. It doesn't seem it's the same as all the way through, right? Like let's say, I'm a gambler and I'm playing cards or something like that. There's like this first time when I understand the game, or I got the feedback, I won the hand, and you can keep on playing for years, a lifetime, but nothing ever is quite like that first one, right? And that first one is so important. It seems like, I just mean like understanding what that is might be an important part of the conversation. Yeah.
So first is important. Like, you never have a second chance to make a first impression in anything in life. But in game design, we talk about keeping people in a state of flow. Okay, and this actually comes out of positive psychology. It comes out of like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, I think I said that right, his work of flow states, which is in games but also outside of games. And what that is about is, if you can think of like a graph of difficulty on one axis and ability on the other. What we want to do with the game is we want to keep you kind of in this middle state between the two, where your ability is growing as the difficulty is growing. And what that feels like for you is you are rising to meet a challenge. So when you first encounter that new enemy or that new puzzle or something like that, you're like, oh, this is really tough. Not too tough. If it's so tough, you get frustrated, you don't get the dopamine, you drop off, you don't want to play. If it's so easy, you're like, this is boring, I want to go do something else. But we keep you in a flow state with this sort of peak and valley by modifying difficulty to match the ability that you've now gained by conquering previous challenges. So this can very much be weaponized in an addictive way, but it also can be used, for instance, for educational programming. It's like how when you're doing a yoga teacher training or something like that, structuring your program to be designed around flow can be a positive application of that type of psychology. So yeah, that first hit of dopamine, definitely important, but it's almost like we kind of create new firsts for you along the way, right? It's like, oh, well, I've never encountered this challenge before, so this is new, right? And I think we've all probably played experiences, or I think in film, there's the concept of sort of drama fatigue. It's like every season finale has to be more ridiculous than the last one, you know, to keep us all pumped up. And it gets to a point where it's like, well, now everything's patently ridiculous. There's that term, jumping the shark. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not so much like first, it's about sort of structuring the dopamine to be released over time. Yeah.
Seems to be something too in like the arc of artistic expression.
Yep.
That maybe when you're first building something, creating something, there's a purity there.
Yeah.
And then if it becomes popular and other people start to like it and they want more of it,
Yeah.
you're trying to replicate that purity. And maybe this is the mark of a true artist because they won't sacrifice anything, you know, and they'll create the next thing if they're called to do it, you know, from that deeper place. And others will, maybe it's a question of motivation. Like, am I motivated in the creation itself, the process of it, or am I motivating in some kind of reward, you know, monetarily or something?
But there's also, I agree, and when I started this journey, I was very much the artistic purist. Yeah. And I have bent my rules in many different places there. And in some places that might sound like corruption. In some places that might sound like, okay, the business model won't work this way. So I'm going to, can I swear on this podcast? Lowercase? And crapify. We'll use that. There's a term in tech called crapification. I'm replacing crap for a dirtier word, and crapification. And that's where it's capitalism. The line's always got to go up. And so we're just going to raise prices. We're going to make things crappier. We're going to paywall more things. And we move so far away of the original vision, which was helping people, and now it's just extracting from people. Yeah. But I think there is, as an artist though, your purity can also get in the way of helping your customer. And I think bringing almost a yoga attitude of service is another antidote to artistic purity. Because one thing I had, for instance, was Amaru, when it was first released, this is how bad of a tech person I am. When Amaru, when it was released, didn't have notifications. I didn't believe in them. Because in my opinion, I was subscribing, Tristan Harris, are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Center for Humane Technology, right? Yeah. So in sort of humane design or ethical design, I had this idea of the difference between a tool. Like a tool is something that, a hammer sits in the corner all day long and doesn't want your attention. You come up and use a hammer when you want it, right? The problem with tech and products today is that oftentimes we're the product. It's our data, it's our behavior. And so notifications, everything is trying to pull us back in, pull us back in, pull us back in. I didn't want that for Amaru. I wanted Amaru to be a tool. I wanted it to be something that people could log in, use it when they wanted to, and put it away and not use it when they don't want to. Yep. Well, what did I start hearing from my fans? I want to be notified when Amaru's hungry. I want to be notified when he wants me to play with him. I want to be so this was an instance where I was seeing notifications very cynically. I was just seeing it as a way to wrest attention from people who don't want to give me their attention. To notifications are a tool that my players wanted to be reminded to take care of their pet.
Yep.
So that was an instance where my sort of artistic purity was actually a disservice to my customers. And so I can kind of get out of my own way and program. But then, of course, what did I do? I made the notifications very artistic, right? Yeah. It doesn't just say, Bing, time to feed Amaru. It's like, Amaru awoke to the smell of chicken roasting on the fire. Like it's a little narrative snippet to kind of like bring them back in and weave them back in. But I put some artistry in it.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
I guess just staying open.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah,
and I have this point of view. But I'm still open to it, and that seems so reasonable. Yeah. With something like this, it's actually a service to be notifying instead of the opposite.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, like playing with. There are different forms of motivation, and you can put this into games. You can put them into anything. You asked me earlier, like things that I think about a lot. I think a lot about incentives. I think about incentives in politics. I think about incentives in business. I think about incentives, all of life, right? And so there's extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, right? Extrinsic motivation is I don't really want to do this thing, but if you pay me, if you feed me, if you give me something, I see it as sort of an exchange. This is an external form of motivation. Then there's internal motivation, intrinsic motivation. This is, I believe in this. I'm going to do this whether you pay me or not. You can cut off my arms and legs. I'm still going to make music. Like, you know, it comes from within. And there are ways actually that if you want to ruin like a musician's intrinsic motivation to make music, start paying them for it.
Yeah.
Like, and then they feel like their autonomy has been removed from the creative process, and it can like literally unmake their internal motivation. So that was an interesting thing to discover with Amaru as a game designer. Was I was coming into it with the types of games I like to play. I like to play these RPGs and adventure games, and there's leveling up and all that kind of stuff. And I built all that into Amaru. But then what I discovered was they just want to play with the kitty. Like, they just like him. They just want to take care of their pet. Like, just get out of their way. Stop over designing the experience. Just let them play with the cat. You know, let them dress it up. Let them change his colors. Let them do what they want to do. So when you you do have to have an initial design and get it out to the world and all that sort of stuff. But after that, you just got to listen to your players and kind of it's this interesting triangle of sort of, there's that artistic vision that you've got, there's the demands of the market, and there's the wants of your players, and you kind of have to always be bridging those different things. Yeah,
that makes sense. That's a good visual. Yeah. So let's talk about the self-care component of the game. Right, this taking care of Amaru, and on a spiritual level, what that's actually doing for someone. That maybe just to paint a little bit of a picture, maybe someone who's single, they don't have children, they don't have pets, and now they start to engage with the caretaking of Amaru. What is that giving to them?
So you have 3 self-care goals that you set for yourself each day. I picked 3 very deliberately. I didn't want it to become this infinite to-do list that became stressful. It's just like, pick like 3 things for yourself that you think would help you each day. And I have in there ones that people can pick from a list, but you can also fully customize it. It's like whatever you want those 3 things to be. But focusing on the things that are like in there already is there are fully voiced guided meditations in the game that we just know work. If there's basically a yoga nidra in there, there's a focus meditation, there's just bare bones, we've been doing this for 4,000 years and there's 60 years of neuroscience behind it. If you watch your breath and your mind wanders off and you bring it back and you do that enough times, you literally strengthen the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is going to help with things like ADHD. Like, we have a tremendous problem with executive dysfunction right now. Like, the number of people who are on stimulant medications and things like that. Because, like, if you think about back when we were kids, my phone number, 4690975. My best friend's phone number, 4814991. Blockbuster Video, 3808080, right? We used to have to do, if we had to drive across town, we had to create a mental map and follow it. We have offloaded.
The map is maybe the biggest one, because that's spatially so important to do that in the mind.
We've offloaded all of that to our devices now. And now my own executive function is so bad that if I have to log in, and you know how you get texted the little 6-digit number that you got to put into the browser and all that, I can't get from one screen to the other without dropping 3 of the numbers. So I'm thinking, we have all these kids coming up, and by the way, Amaru's not just for kids. I have players from 14 to 65. I like to call it sort of the Disney audience. It's very like all family, but not necessarily children. They're coming up where they've never known a time where they weren't relegating their mental math, their memorization, all of that to a device. So if I'm really struggling with ADHD and somebody says, okay, sit on a cushion and count your breaths, like, that could be pretty miserable. That could be pretty hard. But it's like, oh, but I've got this adorable little guy, and when I do it, I get a little currency. It lets me decorate my pet and buy him things and feed him. So I'm just adding a little bit of sweetener to the medicine of how you could help improve your executive function. And then moving beyond executive function to anxiety, right? I basically got yoga nidras in there and things like that. And we know this quiet the amygdala, right? They structurally improve the parts of the brain so that people aren't in that fight or flight response. They can move more into being able to watch their thoughts come and go instead of react to them. And the Amaru app, with its recordings, does a bit of also explanation of these concepts. So I like to think it's like, I had to be 27, 28 years old before I even started to think about the concept, for instance, that I'm not my thoughts, right? So introducing this in an early, accessible way, even if I don't have somebody, I do have people out there with 1,000-day streaks in Amaru taking care of their pet. But even if they don't get to day 1,000, maybe they get to day 14, 15, and they've at least been exposed to these new concepts. last, I talked about executive function, I talked about anxiety, lastly, depression. We got a gratitude journal in there. We know that gratitude journaling helps. And so you can pick 3 self-care goals for yourself. You can engage with the meditations that are in the app, the journaling prompts that are in the app. But then also, if for you, your self-care is go for a 30-minute walk, type it in. When you log it, you say, I did it, and it still gives you all the bells and whistles and shinies in the game. And Amaru's still super happy that you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has been some of the feedback that you've gotten from people that have, done so like 1,000 days,
Yeah.
or, the heavier users?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they tell you about what it's done for them in their lives?
Sure. I also want to quickly caveat, when I say people have played for 1,000 days, they're playing for 15 minutes a day.
Yeah,
they're not playing for 1,000 days.
Yeah.
They still have lives.
Yeah.
First off, not just the feedback from the players themselves, because we've had about 1 million downloads. So it's got a 4.7 out of 5 right now. It fluctuates 4.7, 4.8. The reviews are generally glowing. This has helped me. I've always wanted to get into a mindfulness practice. This is the first thing that's ever helped. People really like it. I've also run AI sentiment analysis on the comments. There was also a university study done that used Amaru as an intervention with a teenage group. Reduces anxiety, reduces depression. Is very clear from the constellation of evidence. So we know that we're hitting the mark. And it's not surprising because I haven't put anything in there that we didn't know wouldn't help. You know what I mean? It's we know mindfulness helps. Yeah. We know yoga nidra helps. We know the gratitude journaling helps. I didn't invent anything new. I just put it in an adorable cat-shaped wrapper and gave it to people. So it did what we expected it to do, which is great. People will say the tutorial's too long. It is. We'll fix it. People bemoan that it's only in English. We got a grant recently. We're going to fix that. And people just want more to do. I designed it when I made it for it to be a 45 to 60 day experience. Because again, I was just sort of following the science and I was like, okay, if we can get them to practice something for about 2 months, then maybe that'll be a routine that sticks. And so we have this little storybook that unlocks chapters about Amaru's story as you play the game. And if you're a consistent player and you get to about day 60, that should be all right, Amaru's reunited with his family. Good job, Hariom Tat Sat, enjoy your life. We didn't expect people to be no, I want to keep playing. And then to continue to do so for 5 years, which is crazy and very cool. So we're excited now that we build the game with a technology called Unity. It's a game engine, which people are what's a game engine? It's imagine you had to build a board game. You've got rules, you've got pieces, you've got all these different things that need to get together. Just imagine that digitally. It's we need to make the pieces, we need to make the rules, we need to make the music. The game engine is what unites all those things together and then puts it on your phone. So Unity is the company that makes our game engine, and they have a program, amazing program called the Unity for Humanity program, where they give grants for anyone making games or using their technology for something other than just pure entertainment. So they funded games that help kids learn how to use their prosthetics. They've used there are people who have spatially created blind people can navigate their environments, and it gives them binaural feedback of where they are in space. And then they liked us because of course ours is a mental health mission. So yeah, we got a grant for that. And so now all of this feedback of make it last longer. So we're expanding it now, not to just be 60 days, but to be basically an endless experience because people just want their pets to live forever. So here we go. Get it in more languages, and fix the monetization. There are people who want it to be free, and wouldn't that be nice? That's not the world we live in. I get shoot out in the comments sometimes of why isn't it free? And I'm because it's very expensive to make. But what we can do is we can have different paths to monetization. So it's for people who can't afford it, they can pay money. For people who can't afford it, they can recruit friends. That saves me on marketing, and I can give them content that way. So
you can donate. You can essentially sponsor.
And we have that right now. Yeah. Actually. Yeah, the Keys for Those in Need program has donated something like 10,000 copies, I think, over the course of the app, which has been great. But this kind of just more sustainably speaking, especially if you're talking of someone finds our game in Brazil or an emerging market where $1 is an astronomical amount of money, this is something where they can just say, whatever. And this is my biggest sacrifice. The fact that I am putting ads in Amaru, that's a heavy hit to my purity to have ads in Amaru in any way. what I'm doing it though is I'm making them opt in. So there will never be a point where, you know, an ad's going to pop up on you, but you can say, I would rather watch an ad than spend cash on this game, and I'm going to choose to watch an ad. And that's me falling far from the ivory tower of purity when I started. But again, it now makes the game more accessible to more people. So have an attitude of service, get out of your own way, make the thing that helps.
It also really depends on the ad,
Yeah.
right? If it's an ad for something that might actually really benefit for someone else,
Yeah.
that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your background, you have actually a PhD in psychology, right?
I do. I want to caveat that I am not a clinician. So I got my PhD in what's called industrial organizational psychology. My dissertation was on burnout and motivation in the workplace, and I then became a personal expert in burnout and motivation in the workplace. So on a professional and personal level, I understand it. So yeah, I do. I think where my doctoral training mostly impacts me is a few ways. One, we did study motivation a lot, and so designing a game that helps with that solving the motivation problem was what I set out to solve. I wasn't trying to just make another content platform. I was trying to make an innovative way to get people to stick with something. I also encountered just sort of the sister discipline of our field is called human factors ergonomic psychology. And they are underneath what we normally think of as UX, or user experience design. So how do you just make a technology that feels human to touch, that feels intuitive to touch? So there's a lot of game design in that, so kind of wrapped in there. And then lastly, I just learned a lot of like how to do good research. So I actually am able to like collect data and make sure that one, I'm addressing my fans' needs, and also I'm not making something that's harmful, and I can validate the claims that I make that it does actually help. So,
well, you know, gaming to me is so psychological.
Yeah.
You think you need to put yourself in the position of someone else going through an experience, and then you're trying to guide them to have particular experiences. So
yeah, there's a fantastic book that I recommend anyone read, even if you're not a game designer. It's called The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell, and Jesse was a Disney Imagineer. So like he thinks about things like not even just like playing a video game, but like how do you navigate a theme park? How do you navigate a retreat? Right? And he talks about games as being engines of experience. Like at the end of the day, like engines of experience, right? So we were trying to create a certain experience, and the design of that game is 100% based on the experience you're trying to create, and that's entirely psychological, right? So if I want to create a feeling of rush and anxiety and excitement, I could create a sequence in a game with a timer on it, right? And say, you got to get this done in this amount of time. And as that timer runs down, it's going to add stress, it's going to add excitement, it's going to add that dopamine if you get across the finish line. That's the last thing I want to put in a game where I'm trying to calm people down and chill them out. The joke being, of course, that there are several mini games at Amaru with timers. So that was like a design choice that was discordant. So like I need to like reevaluate that. So yeah, it's all psychology.
Yeah. It's very interesting to consider. Okay, like what I see you doing is essentially you're meeting someone where they're at.
Yes.
You know, they're already a gamer. They're already a phone user. You know? And then in order to share these practices that have benefited you so much, that benefited pretty much all of us probably that are listening to this podcast right now, you need to go there, and in a way, you're like there's this bigger game of life, right? That you're that's the starting place. The starting place is, okay, I'm playing games all day long, and now you're using the game to potentially guide them back towards yoga, right?
100%. That's why there's literally the take a screen break feature in the game. That's why several of the goals are like, stop playing.
So have you had any feedback that for some people that had never like practiced meditation before, that now through the experience of playing the game, they're regular meditationers?
Yeah. One of the comments that I've gotten that I love is, you know, I've always wanted to start a meditation practice, and this was the first thing that got me to do it. So I've gotten that one. Another one that really resonates with me is I've heard people say this game is the reason I don't self-harm. Like, I mean, the game's had serious impact. I'm proud of it.
Yeah. So I just want to get back to this idea of how the times are changing and how technology helps us in our lives, because I think it's quite complicated, right?
Yeah. And
like,
yeah.
it's helpful that I don't need to memorize all these phone numbers and GPS. We all know how it's like hard to even imagine how to survive and go places and travel. You know, if I go to a new city that I've never been before, you know, now I can find all sorts of different places to visit and exactly how to get there. You know, when that wasn't possible before.
Well,
So
it wasn't impossible before.
What's that?
It wasn't impossible before.
On a certain level.
On a certain level. But I mean, like back in the day, you got a map, you pulled it out, you studied it, you had a sense of where you were going before you got there, you called a friend. I think one of the things that I really struggle with technology is how it is replacing the value that we as humans used to give to each other. So for instance, if you were going to land in a new city you've never been to before, you might find a guide, right?
Of course.
Now you don't need a guide. If I needed to bake the world's best chocolate chip cookies, I have no reason to call grandma anymore. I'm just going to get on Google. You know what I mean? It's like and that to me, it's like at the same time, isn't it amazing that yes, I love to travel. So like Google Maps and the ability to drop into anyone, the fact that I can grab my phone, point it at a menu in a foreign language, and it will just overlay English text on top.
Right.
I mean, that's insane. It's magic. That's literal magic, right? It's incredible. And yet at the same time, like we trade so much.
Yeah, it's just nuance. That's what I want to talk about, because it's really complicated. You know, another example that's in my mind is like if I'm vegan and I'm going to a new place, now I can look on an app and it could tell me all the vegan restaurants. That would be a hard thing to try to just figure out through randomly meeting people or talking to someone.
Not by randomly meeting people, but I bet if you were a vegan back there, you might join a vegan newsletter. You might have some vegan publications.
It's a way, but it's not. There's a way, but it's not as easy.
It's not as easy.
It's just clearly that there's upside and downside.
Yes, 100%.
Right? And I think it's important not to essentially take either side of this topic because of how nuanced it is. I think it's just important to be conscious of what it's doing and how I can move forward. I mean, look, I know some people that don't use their phones and then don't hardly use any technology at all. That's the choice that they've made, and that's fine to make that choice. I respect it. But if we are going to engage with these things and use them, what I worry about is a kind of situation where I'm using something and essentially I'm like shaming myself in a way, or I'm feeling badly about it. Like I think this is a bad thing to do, but I'm doing it anyway. I think that causes some kind of like ruptures in the internal system.
Well, again, I get back to the problem of incentives, right? So if I thought about this for like ages ago, why can't we just pay a subscription for social media? Like we would do it. We pay a subscription for our phones. We already do that, right? And our phones don't constantly try to keep us hooked to using our phone, right? Because we're paying a subscription. But we don't pay a subscription to social media because it's ad monetized. And so their job is to make it as addictive as possible, to make it, frankly, as poorly designed as possible. I don't know if you have this experience. If I ever end up on Facebook looking for one thing, the speed with which I am pulled off track from what I came there to do to getting sucked into something else, it's amazing.
And that's not a good product, actually, when you look at it.
Well, it is, but we're not the customer. The advertisers are the customer. It's an excellent, excellent product for advertisers, right? I say this as someone who uses Meta to advertise. And I really don't like that I do that, but I have to because this is the world we're in. So again, it gets back to, is technology good, bad? No. Incentives can make technology used for very good purposes or very bad purposes. And right now, I do unfortunately believe a lot of incentives are in the wrong place. And that's why we're seeing a lot of the problems that we're seeing. And it's why we feel bad. Like, I think that if I just had a digital phone book on my phone that let me look up and contact people that I wanted, and I could share pictures and this and that, I wouldn't feel bad about it. What I feel bad about is I went there to send my friend a message, but now an hour and a half later of scrolling BS, right? And now my day is gone. That's what I feel bad about, right? So it's the incentives. It's how do we realign tech with good incentives?
And ideally, I wonder if perhaps the goal is to treat ourselves like Amaru.
Yeah,
you know,
that is the metaphor for sure.
Right, like okay, how can I design my life so that the incentives are set up?
Yeah, incentives are great, and yeah, just I mean, this kind of just I guess I'm only doubling down on addiction, the word addiction, because you kind of talked about that feeling bad feeling, right? Is if we're trying to break an addiction, right? They say, what do they say? They say, well, don't put yourself around it. Come up with when you feel the hankering to engage in the activity, that's the addictive activity. Already have a ready-made alternative that you can go to, and don't have to think about what could I do differently in the moment. It's like, okay, I'm having the craving. I've already I've done the pre-work on that, so I know what to do. All of that can be applied so that we can more intentionally engage with tech, for sure. But man, I feel like with me and my smartphone, I feel like it's the ring from like Lord of the Rings, man. I feel like it's like I'm just
see it.
My hand is always sliding into my pocket. Just gotta make sure it's still there. It's so powerful. It's tricky, but we can do our best to use it for good. It's also very powerful, you know. And again, I say this as somebody whose entire life depends on this tech continuing. I mean, my entire career, everything that I do is through tech. So.
Well, I don't know, what gives me hope is just this question of how much.
Yeah, so how much?
You know?
Yeah.
Because then I'm not playing this game. This game feels like very ancient of good or bad.
Yeah, don't
right?
do that.
And, right? Like, that's why? Like, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, part of me feels like it thinks that it does. Like, I need to have opinions about what and who I like.
Well, because it's easier. Yeah. It's easier, and also, especially because everything is so politicized and so polarized, it's like, well, what camp are you a part of? Yeah. You know, so there's that component of it as well.
But I don't need to do that.
No, you don't. And nobody does.
No.
Yeah. So you get it. That's correct. Don't fall into binary thinking. Things are always shades of gray, and like I said, I mean, I started my business in this very puritanical way, and I'm amazed. I mean, and in a way, there is a degree to which I'm sure the heartfeltness of Amaru was what resonated with that early audience. You know, if I had come out with all of the same gimmicks and hooks that all the other tech companies did, maybe I would have never gotten the base that I got. But it was so heartfelt and artistic and beautiful that it had absolutely no legs under it from a business standpoint, and therefore can't grow, right? So now I've got all these fans who are like, we want more Amaru, we want more Amaru. I'm like, I'd love to give it to you, but I can't afford to. So now it's through not being binary about it. It's about saying, okay, there is my artistic vision, there are my fans, there are the business needs. The solution is gonna lie in the gray center of all of those priorities. And you know, now we've got the grant, and now we can grow again, and we're moving forward, and we can help more people this way. If I am successful with what we're going to do with this grant, we're going to 20x our reach in 5 years, and that's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But the monetary aspect of it, though, is psychologically, I think, very important.
Yeah.
To look at as well. It's like even just this question that you brought up in regard to how would our relationship with social media change if it was something that we paid for?
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing with Amaru, right? And I wonder, like us yogis kind of, you know, I think that there could be a decent amount of healing that happens around the world of money.
For sure.
Sometimes for us. But I think even potentially you're even doing someone a service by charging for something. You're on multiple levels.
Yeah.
You can do something for them because they're going to value it even more, right? And when you really think about it, it could be spending a few dollars on an app, you know, is less than you know, a cup of coffee or something like that they're buying multiple times a day. So, you know, it's not like we're talking about such a high price tag. So you value it even more. And then, too, like what you're talking about in the experience that you've had, you've run into issues because you haven't had that, and therefore you haven't been able to serve more people.
Yeah.
So if you're really interested in serving more people through doing it, money is simply just a resource that you can use to help more.
Yeah.
You know, so why not, you know, fully embrace that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not like you're looking for it just for your own personal, you know, to live a cushier life.
If I wanted to make money, I could have stayed in my corporate job. That
Right.
wasn't why I did this.
Right.
But you know, Yeah, like I said, I have the occasional nasty gram pop up in our reviews saying, how dare you charge or something, branding yourself as mental health and wanting to make money off it. And I'm like, I want to pay my artist.
Yeah.
I want.
Is that hard for you to receive that and not allow it to impact you or drive how you make decisions moving forward?
It was at first.
Yeah.
I have gotten past it.
Yeah.
Because to me, when somebody says, why isn't it free? I'm like, because I want to pay my artist. I want to pay my developer. Like, I want to give lives to people making a good thing. One person even wrote in a review, if you want to make money, why don't you just make a clicker game? And clicker games are just like these ad-based, mindless, like complete waste of time things. And I was like, why would I want to make a clicker game? And why would you want to tell someone making something that's beautiful and helping the world, I don't want to give you money, but I'll give you money for a clicker game? Like, that doesn't, like that. We sending money is sending energy in support of something that you want to see more of in the world. And so, yeah, I mean, and this is 6-7 years of me being on this journey. Back then, I was much harder to receive these types of things. But also, you also just learn what it costs to make stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know what I think we really need is we need a gamification of comment sections.
Comment sections, okay.
Really?
Yeah, Reddit's kind of got that with the upvote, downvote.
Yeah, it's on another level because, I don't even, like, hearing this, I don't even want you to receive that, obviously it's an opportunity for you.
Yes.
But we tend to get stuck in the negative stuff, and people online, they say all sorts of stuff.
They do,
and a lot of times they'll even say it when they would never say that to your face. They're
absolutely not.
They're going through their own stuff, and it's a mode of operation where you're just critiquing. You're finding something wrong. It's like, right, it has to do with what's happening for themselves internally, but that's also just what they're trying to do, is just cut down.
And also, people tend to leave a review when they don't like something more than when they like something.
Right.
If you think about it, we usually don't go out of our way. In fact, that's a great thing to do, is make a goal to like leave one positive review on something a month, because we don't think to do it. We actually, when we first released Amaru, I think our reviews were hovering in sort of the 3.7 out of 5 or something. I was very unhappy about it. But what I thought about that, and I was like, people who like our game are not leaving our game to go leave us a review. People who don't like our game will do that. They'll trash us on their way out the door. But so we put a little pop-up in the app at around like day 3 or 4 that was like, hey, if you're enjoying this, and immediately, just by giving the opportunity, we went from 3.9 to 4.8, just like whoop, So
amazing.
So I think for me now, I agree. And I also used to be a professor, so I would get my class evaluations at the end of the year, and I could have 100 students saying, this is the best professor I've ever had, but it'll be the one student who says I'm trash. That's the one I'm going to focus on, because that's how the depressive brain works. But now with 10,000 reviews of Amaru, no one's going to tell me that my game sucks.
Right.
And no one's going to tell me that it should be free. It's like, neither of those things are true. You can say that all you want to. This thing helps people, and it helps the people that are playing it, but it also helps, again, it's like giving a job to, my artist, when I met her, I believe she was working in fast food. My developer, when I met him, he was working behind a desk at a Staples. And they got to come and spend 5 years building this very artistic, very cool product that's helped a lot of people. And I don't like money either, but you do need it.
Hey, tell me about the team.
Yeah. So
and how you try to foster a healthy culture.
Yeah, and maybe that's where the IO psychology is helping too. I like to try, when motivating a team, to balance energy givers versus energy drainers. It's sort of like, I know that there are certain tasks that people need to do that are not fun. And I know there are other tasks that people need to do that are more fun. And I try to make sure that like no one on the team is stuck with all of the drainers. You know what I mean? Yep. I try to like remove as many of those as possible. Unfortunately, that usually means I end up doing the drainers, which is not good, and I need to work on that. But so I feel like it's interesting. There's a lot of like kind of anxiety right now on like hiring, like how do you hire the right people and stuff like that. AI is getting involved, and it's very destructive. The thing that I do is I go physically to places where I know people are already doing the thing that I want them to do. So I'll go to like game developer meetups where like hobbyists are just sitting there, they've got their laptop open, they're making games already. I find an artist, like my artist, Lexi will sit in a chair and I don't think she could stop drawing if she wanted to. It's like, it's just what she does,
Wow.
right? So my goal then is okay, you've got the skill that I need. How do I give you the resources to liberate you from, say, fast food job so that you can come do that for me and do it, and we can do it together and do it on something. So yeah, that's kind of my general MO, is I like try to find people, there's that intrinsic motivation, right? Find people who are already doing the thing and say, hey, I've got an opportunity for you. If I can remove something from your life that's draining and crappy, and now you can do the skill that you have to help me with my mission, let's see if we can make that happen. So I had a team of about 10 when we were at our peak. I am now down to just me. Thanks to the grant, I am now in a position to grow again, which is exciting. But yeah, if Amaru is a cat with 9 lives, we're on like life 6 or 7. We almost died so many times, but we're still here, still kicking.
You're speaking about addiction.
Yeah.
And I wonder if thinking is the most formidable.
Thinking as an addiction?
As an addiction.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have got Krishna Das coming through pretty soon.
Yep.
He said something that really stuck with me, which is you can't think your way out of a prison made of thought.
Yep.
I love that. And I think I can say recovered depressive. I don't think I identify as being depressed anymore. Being in those thought prisons was like the problem, because and also as a PhD person, I rely on my brain for everything, right? It's this great tool. Another quote that I'm stealing from someone: "The mind is a great tool and a crappy master."
Yep.
Right. So when you've got this great tool, it's like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I've got a brain, so everything looks like something I should think about.
Yep.
Right? I should think about it. And I think getting into mindfulness, getting into yoga, getting into the other bodies, getting into the breath body, getting into the physical body, there's so much power in that. There's so much power in learning that not everything is something to be thought about. Also, coming from the psychology background, we've wised up. There was a whole time in psychology where we basically treated emotion as noise. I think especially with men, right? It's like, don't feel feelings, just like crush it down. Yeah. And now we're like, oh my gosh, like the modern behavioral economics is like, we know that humans have 2 decision-making systems, and the emotion one is the one that actually makes the decisions. The brain just rationalizes the decision that the emotions made, So
I even wonder about these situations that are so common, where a person you can be you're basically doing anything on a screen. You're playing a game, even you're working for a long time. You're watching something, and that's very mental, right? It's cerebral.
Yeah.
But there's this other part of your system that's saying that we know it has to be saying it because of the effects of doing these for such long periods of time.
Yeah.
There's this other part that's sending you an alarm, like go for a walk.
Yep.
Take a break,
Absolutely.
meditate.
Yeah.
Our system is so miraculous that it is giving that feedback to us, but we're not listening to it.
We're not listening, and a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't even know to listen, though. To be fair,
because it's being suppressed for so long in a way.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Well, it's like I said when I first did that first headspace lesson, and I felt the space between my thoughts.
Yeah.
I didn't know that my brain was just this 100%, the fog of Maya. That's where that term that I have in the game, it comes from. I didn't know that fog was even there. I've lived in it so long that it's just there, right? Everything is just filtered through these negative thoughts, and that's just what it is. And so people are, they're sitting in their chairs, they're doing their thinking work all the time. Their body is probably sending them all sorts of signals that they just don't know. In yoga, for instance, we learn, you're in Hatha, and then a teacher gives that one prompt that one time that's like, imagine if you could connect a line between the outside of your pinky toe and your left ear, and you're like, what are you even, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that can happen, but we would have never thought to listen to that until somebody prompted it. So yeah, I think there are a lot of people who are very asleep. They're very asleep.
How do you think it got to be that way to begin with? Like, essentially, you're hopping on a train where you're thinking all the time, and then you don't even, it becomes so normalized that you aren't even imagining there could be any other way.
Yeah, it's the nature of the work that we do. I imagine if we talk to people who work more on their feet or in physical industries or service industries and things like that, where moving your body it remains a critical part of how you live your life, I imagine they live a more naturally embodied life. I just think that most of us, or I know I shouldn't say that, a lot of us, we from the day we were born, we were put in a school, we were told, sit there, read this, memorize these things, and then one day ended up behind a desk, and it's just been still being physically still and doing thinking for work has been the MO. At least it has been for
thinking
my
for
life. Thinking for life, yeah.
That's what happens. It has to be childhood that we have to look at. Because childhood is human beings are not born with thinking minds that are nonstop.
We immediately grab our kids and say, sit there, don't move, consume this stuff that we think you need to know.
We're somehow pulling them into our tractor beam of thought.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's so natural for a person to want to fit in.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the child wants to be a part of the conversation. They want to be included in what the parents, with language, right? I mean, I want to be able to speak. I want to be able to communicate. So it's so much effort, right? There's so much effort even to learn a language to begin with, right? It's a really hard thing. And because it takes that, and then you get the dopamine from it because, okay, now I can use words to communicate what I want and be included in the conversation and get attention from you because I'm talking to you.
Oh, are you saying sort of like the need for language is pulling kids more into the brain, into the thinking track?
Well, yeah, it's language itself. I mean, that's what thought is.
It is. Yeah. It is. I mean, we're simplifying and making abstract what cannot fully be comprehended if we don't, right? So we can't communicate if we don't sort of iconize and symbolize things down. But I think now we're getting into the how much question, right?
Exactly.
Because I mean, language is a wonderful thing. Language allows us to connect in really wonderful ways. But also, I don't know if you've ever, we do silent retreats here, and you know how much communication can happen without words. Yep. But but there are those sometimes, or even on a silent retreat, where it's just like, okay, like, come on, just tell me, like, you clearly need to say something. Yeah. So yeah, it gets down to that how much.
It gets down to the how much, but I don't think you can even answer it if you're not aware. First, you need to be aware of what the situation is. Yeah. And then you can consciously answer that question for me. How much, and then again, not getting into the space of like thoughts are bad or wrong. Like, no, the mind is amazing and it's so helpful and useful. I just don't want to be thinking all the time every day.
I even share that in the setup for sort of like the yoga nidra type practice or the deep relaxation type practices in Amaru. I open with, your anxiety is not bad for you. It's just overactive.
That's a great way to put it.
Because
anxiety. We see anxiety, and right away we say, "Oh, negative. There's something wrong with it."
Yeah, back in the day, if I was alone in the woods and I was, I would want to be on edge. I want my eyes dilated. I want my heart rate up because if something jumps out of the bushes, I got to book it and go. And so, but where we are now is we are in this chronic state of hyperactive amygdala where there is no lion in the bushes, but our nervous system doesn't know the difference. And over time, that just drains. It drains us. Yeah.
Well, I wonder if that happens too in regard to identity. There's so much care around identity that's really where the anxiety and the fear, that's how that can operate continuously. Because I can always be afraid about my identity, concerned about my identity, all day long. And again, it's not that the identity is wrong, but do I want to be obsessed with this person, this one particular person that I operate with, all the time, every day.
I'd separate the two out a little bit.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but just to kind of put a little bit more distinction on it. With the always on thing, I think that's what's really ramped up. And by the way, when to use that, like 68% increase in anxiety and depression in young folks over the 10 years since like Instagram went online. Like it's a massive number, it's huge. But if you think about it, I think it's the always on thing is the problem. Never before in human history, what was it? Let's say you had a bully at school, right? You at least could leave school. The bully's not going to follow you. You're going to go home and you're going to be safe. You don't have to think about the bully. Now the bully can reach at you and attack you through your phone at any moment, right? And now you got the 24-hour news cycle, all this kind of stuff. It's so that constant inflamedness that the connectedness allows for, that's the always-on component. Now getting to identity. Yeah, I've actually kind of struggled a bit with this because one of the most liberating moments for me in my mental health journey was when I stopped identifying with my depression. When I started to see depression not as me, but as a collection of habits of thought and behaviors that, when observed, could be engaged with or not engaged with, right? It's not me, it's just I have a tendency that, when I think about this, it reminds me of this, which brings me out here. But now I can see it and I can be like, okay, before that spiral brings me down, I'm just not going to engage with that, I'm going to do something else, right? So not identifying with my diagnosis was critical for me. What I am seeing now is sort of everyone is really hyper-identifying with, I'm neurodivergent this way, I'm this, I'm that, and they're really attaching themselves to that. And it feels to me like it's coming from a place of empowerment in the sense of, well, now I have a label, so now I can better understand, I can get treatment, maybe I have community, now maybe I get more resources. But to me, again, it's the how much. I think that it's beneficial for people to see and say, because also we don't want to go back to the 1940s and 50s where people just swallowed their feelings and didn't talk about stuff, and then we just threw people in mental asylums when they were uncomfortable for us. But getting to a point where people can say, okay, I observe that I engage in certain behaviors and patterns that meet potentially this classification, but then not making that classification me.
Yeah, exactly. When you make it me, it's so heavy. It's taking
heavy.
yourself so seriously. And that is also what I think. It's kind of a type of bullying, actually. Now you brought up bullying. It's a subtle bullying we aren't even aware that we're doing. It's almost like care about yourself like all the time. Not in a positive way, but care about your identity. So much like around appearance, even just subtle things like, oh, you're so beautiful, I like that thing. It's like, I think about this a lot being a parent, right? What is that reinforcing? It's reinforcing that this personhood, you should be really concerned about this personhood and how you rank compared to other people, And
perfectionism and all of that. And again, just getting back to the tech stuff, like never before in human history have teenagers had to deal with the fact, it's like you used to just have to worry about being the prettiest person in your school. Now you got to be the prettiest person in the world, where like rich kids have studio setups like this and the filters and all that to just remove all, and just the perfectionism trap. It's wild. It's really wild stuff.
So it's like the opportunity. It's so important, this work that we're doing, because it's essentially it's opening the door for someone to make the choice. I'm not going to even play that game anymore.
And talking, I mentioned the metaphor, the fog of Maya before, and how that's kind of where I started my narrative universe of the game. But dispelling the Maya. I feel like we got to let people know, like this ain't it. It's like it is both the balance of navigating the world as, yes, I am Gabe Pappalardo, I am Muktan, my back hurts and I have this job, and like these are things that are true, and also we are the eternal space dust of the universe, and we just got to like figure all that. We got to walk both of those things all the time.
And what's so great too, because what I love to do and feels very real is engage, like to see this whole thing as a game. And that's what games are even based on.
The Leela, right?
This is the Leela. This is the play. And what's so cool is that in this God's game, you could say it, in the creator's game, right? The incentives are actually amazing to disengage from the Maya,
Absolutely.
right? When you disengage from this identity, when you're in a state of meditation, it's blissful.
Now you get to be on the ride.
You know? And once, and that's why it's also really sticky for so many of us, right?
Yeah.
For you in that moment when you're using Headspace, when you experience something, it's like, whoa, that's pretty good. It might be beyond any dopamine hit I've ever gotten from playing a video game.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and it's one thing I think why people love like Dungeons and Dragons and like role playing or improv comedy or anything like that is we get to engage in the play without the consequence, right?
Yeah.
So like I haven't played it that much, but the first time I ever played a game, I was very attached to the outcomes. It's like if I'm an orc and I'm going to swing my sword and I'm going to roll the dice. And the funny thing is my character just got the worst dice rolls over and over again. And he kept tripping over himself and messing everything up. And eventually it was just hilarious. And I was like, okay, I get to play the character. I get to make the decisions, but I'm completely unattached to the outcome. And eventually that character ended up dying. And that lasted with me forever. And like I was like, wow. So it's like you get to just drop in. And so yeah, here in this life we can disengage a little bit and do the Leela thing. At the same time, you got to pay taxes. So it's like you got to.
It's a part of the game.
Exactly, it's a part of the game.
It's a part of the game, right? That's what makes the game like the ultimate game.
Yeah.
It's not something that, you know, the human brain cooked up to keep you looking at a screen. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Well, brother, thanks so much for taking the time to do this and for, man, what you're creating. I think it's really, really powerful. It's helping so many people. I'm so glad you got the grant. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Onward. Hopefully you don't need any more lives. It's just good living.
All good living from here. Amaru can like retire with 3 lives still under his belt. Yeah. If people want to check it out, you know, you can just like look us up. It's Amaru, spelled Amaru. The self-care virtual pet will come right up. You know, it's if you get a Google Play or App Store, just punch it in.
Yeah.
Pull it down. Yeah.
It's definitely worth checking out. I mean, it's just the feel of it is so nice too. You know, I've played a lot of games, but and it's not confusing.
Yeah.
Also, like the onboarding of it, it feels great. It's just directing you from place to place, from action to action, and yeah, I've really been enjoying.
Thank you.
Yeah, tinkering with it. So,
Yeah.
man, wishing you all the best. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks, Avi.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this content and think others might as well, please feel free to share and subscribe.